podcasting from a remote location somewhere deep in the heart of New York City. This is Crypto Characters, and I'm your host, Jason Magic. With me today is a very special guest, the marvelous Mrs. Meisels, actress, voiceover artist, public speaking coach, most importantly for today. Annie Meisels, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, the marvelous Mrs. Meisels.
I mean, you must get that a lot now, right?
You know what? I did a little voiceover for the show.
You did?
Yeah. And she's Maisel, I'm Meisels, but, cousins, quite close.
That's right.
And I love the show, so it's good.
I've seen, we've watched all the episodes.
Yeah.
My parents, my mom and dad were like, you should see the show. It's really great. Have you seen it? We were like, yeah, we've seen it. It's such a great show.
It's a great show. There's some good stuff out there.
Who's it about? Is it about a person in particular? Because I always thought that, I was like, that's got to be a person.
Oh, I don't know, but I don't know because it's Amy Sherman Palladino who is the writer and the creator of it, and she did Gilmore Girls,
Okay.
which is a huge hit, and I don't know that that's about
in
her.
like 1990.
Yeah, but it ran for how many seasons, and I think she did something else that I don't know if it went anywhere, and then this is her next thing. So I don't know. I talked to her for a while, but I didn't say. So tell me, Amy, who is this about? I didn't go there.
There's someone used to run the Comedy Store or the Comedy Cellar. It's out in L.A. and it was a woman. I forget what her name was, and I only know about it because I'm a huge Joe Rogan fan and I listen to his podcast all the time, and that's where he goes to do his comedy.
Oh.
The Comedy Store, I think it is.
Yeah.
And so it was Mrs. Mitzi something or other, and she was apparently like a legend in the comedy circles, and she died in the last year or so.
Oh.
And so it feels to me like that's who it's based on, but I have no idea.
Oh, I don't know.
Right.
I'd have to talk to her. I think she's been in many.
She's dead, Annie.
Not Mitzi.
Okay. Just saying.
What's her name? The girl that plays the lead. I'm blanking.
I don't know. By the way,
Yeah.
is she Jewish? Because if she isn't, she's a phenomenal actress.
She's not. I think she's Irish.
Oh, really? Okay.
Her last name is like Shananahan or something.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
She's just
great.
amazing.
No, she's great. She's great. Yeah.
It's funny, and it's an odd question to ask, but when you see someone who can literally adopt, and you think, oh yeah, of course they're, they must be whatever it is that they're pretending to be, and
Right.
you can't imagine them not.
Being
That's
anything else.
the mark of a great actor or actress.
That's the danger, of an actor, generally, an actor's life. I mean, you're not who you are on stage. Somebody will come up to you and expect you to be, or I often get, oh my God, you are so much younger, or oh my God, you're so much older. If I'm wigged, or stage, or oh, you look so different, and oh, you're not British? No, I'm not British. Or,
Wait, what? Have you played a lot of British people?
Yeah.
In what?
I did an amazing play called Breaking the Code.
Okay. That's about
Alan Turing.
Really?
Yeah. And you learn so much when you do a play, especially about, my father's a war baby. He's from Vienna. But I only understood World War II from his point of view and from Eastern Europe, but never from England's point of view. So it was really interesting learning about that. But yeah, we all had British accents. And then they come off stage and you're like, oh, you're not British.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. And then somebody will have a crush on somebody and she's like, no, that's not don't get too close. I'm not that person you just saw.
Wait, what do you mean a crush on
Like there's people
somebody?
that you'll get like fan letters or something, and have no friend of mine. You get like fan letters and they assume that you're that person, but you're not.
That's really weird.
Yeah, it can be weird.
I was listening to a podcast, and it was the speaker was talking about abstraction. It was really a lecture that they just put on a podcast, and he was talking about abstraction, and he said effectively that abstraction is really what differentiates humans from all of the other primates, because we're really good at abstracting. And when you're watching somebody, we're so good at abstracting that we watch sports. And his point is most sports that we watch in arenas is essentially an abstraction for hunting. Right? Like take hockey, right?
Yeah.
You've got a stick, which is like a spear. You're moving really, really fast, and each team is its own pack, and you have to get the ball in the goal, right? But there's someone guarding the goal. It's essentially like hitting an animal with a spear. So so hockey, soccer, football, they're all abstractions. Football may be more of an abstraction for war, right? And rugby, right? But they're all abstractions for some sort of like very basic thing that we do. And acting and watching actors is another example of an abstraction, because you're effectively watching what's like a dream, right? your dream, in your dream, you create your own world, and you're in it if it's a dream about you.
Right.
And whatever happens to you, you're fully immersed in that world. That's what a dream
Yeah.
is. And there's an avatar of you. And the primary purpose of a lot of the dreams, he was saying, is it's how you test out, should I do this now, or is it a bad idea? And then if you die, if the avatar dies, then you know not to do it in real life. And I thought back on that, and I know people that have told me they had a dream that they killed somebody.
Oh.
And so when that person came and told them what they expected to hear in real life,
Right.
he didn't kill that person. And that was the only reason he didn't commit murder. That was it, because
Really?
it turned out really bad in his dream, because he did it in his dream. And so isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And so acting is another example of abstraction. It's you getting
see what
immersed
you're
in a
saying.
story, and it's you being these people.
Right.
And it's another way of learning.
Right.
So
I think you have to find a way to relate. Right. And so you're relating, you're calling abstracting. Right. So
I'm not saying
no,
abstract,
you're not. But
right,
I mean,
no.
it's
way too advanced for my comprehension.
But like when you're watching, even to bring it around to public speaking, when you're public speaking, you want your audience to connect to you. You want them to find a connection so they can go on your ride, right? So as an actor on stage, I have to connect to my audience. So how do I connect to my audience? I truly ground myself in what it is I'm talking about. And you connect with somebody not necessarily mentally, but emotionally. So if you want to change somebody's mind, or if you want to bring somebody on your ride, if you want them to feel the way you feel, if you want them to feel anything for you or with you, you have to also feel it. So a lot of times people only speak from up here, your brain, and you're not connecting to somebody as much as you really could if you were connecting in your heart. So when someone's watching somebody on stage, and somebody on stage is getting mad about something, or somebody on stage is becoming happy, or however they're feeling, and you all of a sudden, it gives the audience permission to be happy too, or to be angry. Yeah, that was a terrible thing that they did. But if you don't connect to it, then you're not giving the audience permission to connect to it. So when you're watching a game, those people in the game playing hockey are so connected that they're going to punch somebody out if they take the ball, if they take the puck, right?
Yeah,
they're so connected. When you're an athlete, because oddly, I used to play ultimate frisbee competitively.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's a competitive thing that people do?
Oh, it's no, don't get me started. It's recognized by the Olympics.
Actually, I had heard about it. I don't know that I've seen it, but yeah, ultimate
it's
frisbee.
full on. Yeah, nationals just happened. Go Sockeye and Brute Squad. So
wait, what is that? And what team is that?
Sockeye just won, and Brute Squad is a women's team, and they just won nationals.
Is it a direct nod to the Princess Bride?
No.
No, really?
I don't know.
The Brute Squad, Andre the Giant, when he says,
probably.
I'm with the Brute Squad.
Maybe.
You are the Brute Squad.
It's
Billy Crystal.
Could be, I know. They're a Boston team. But there's also Worlds. There's Worlds Ultimate, and you can be the Worlds.
Do you get to hit each other when you're playing it?
No, it's a non-contact sport.
That sounds so.
I mean, there is
so
contact.
disappointing.
No, it's just you gotta get into it. But that's my point. Athletes are so full on focused on what they're doing, and full on 100% mental, 100% heart, and so those people watching with them are just as involved, because there's no question of ambiguity.
Right. When someone hits a home run, especially if you got the bases loaded,
Right.
everyone goes crazy.
Right.
It's like, wow, look at you.
'Cause
Primate hit the ball out of the
invested.
park.
You're
right?
invested. You're invested. Exactly. So if you want people to also be invested in what you're talking about, whether it's cryptocurrency or whether it's
Different kind of investing, I think.
well, it's on a different level in a way, but you still have to be invested, even if you're talking about cryptocurrency and how much pennies are worth compared to how much a penny and a half is worth, or that's also, you could lose this much money or you could gain this much money. You're still invested in the loss or gain, and if you don't connect to where you're invested, then people aren't going to connect to you.
Right. So I took your course, A Powerful Voice.
Yes,
right? And it
you
was,
did.
by the way, it was totally awesome.
Thank you.
I do this so I find that, and a lot of people, I do some public speaking, and a lot of people in the cryptocurrency world do a lot of public speaking.
Yeah.
So, which is why I wanted to have you on the podcast, because I thought that particularly what you spoke about when you said connecting with the audience, it blew me away.
Did it?
Absolutely. I was like,
Awesome.
wow.
Awesome.
That's actually in you. And I thought about the best public speakers that I've seen,
Right.
and they're not giving a speech. They're talking to you.
Right.
And they're connecting with the audience. And their speeches are good. The best public speeches I've seen are good, not because of the content as much as the way that the content has been put together is so interesting and unique that it's hard, that you almost can't not be captured by it.
Well, not just the way it's put together, it's the person that is saying it.
Which was the next, right.
Oh, okay.
And when you have good content, your content has to be good enough that you believe it, in other words.
Yeah.
And then when you believe it, everyone becomes interested. I
Right.
thought about that.
So it has to be your passion. So even though cryptocurrency you might not think about it as a passion, igniting subject, but there are bigger issues. What's the archetype? It's win or lose. It's gain or loss, right? And so those are things that everybody can relate to. Am I going to gain if I do this? And what do I gain and how much? And if I lose, what's the deficit? What am I losing? And everyone can relate to that. If you're losing money, that reaches the core of everybody's livelihood. So
That's true. It does.
Right. So I'm asked that question, how am I supposed to get excited about this? What do you mean, how do you get excited about this? What's the bigger question? What are you talking about? How do you feel about it? How would you feel if you lost or you gained? Or just make sure that you're asking yourself how you feel. Because if you don't know how you feel, your audience is going to be completely, I don't know, I don't care. And that's the last thing you want.
It's true. And so, a coda to that, because when we were in that your class, that workshop, you had some great lines that you put together, and one of them was like, I picked it up. I happened to get that one. It was like the subject of someone dying, and you taught us how to do it in different ways of intonation, and how to make it happy or sad.
Right.
And it was a lot of fun playing with it.
Yeah.
But I think it circles back to one of the things you said, which is when someone says, well, I'm not interested in it. So what I would say is this: if you're not interested in it, then you're talking about the wrong thing. Because I don't know how you can give a speech about something you just don't care about and do it well. You need to find something in the material that speaks to you, and then make that the subject of it, or you're gonna have you're gonna
have a hard time.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a good presentation. It won't be a good speech. Or if it's a conversation, the
Right.
conversation will be bad. All of those things.
Right. I mean, absolutely. When you're talking about something that you are already engaged in, that you're already invested in, that you already have feelings about, you're 50% there. Then you have to bring yourself there. So you were talking about some of the best speakers that you have heard. And the thing about those best speakers is when they come off the podium or when they come down from the stage, they're the same person, right?
It's true.
Nothing's changed.
It's true.
Right. So what happens
It's almost
a lot,
surprising when you talk to them afterwards. You're like,
oh my God, that's you.
that's just you.
So if you think about people like Tony Robbins, he's that guy up there. But if you think about having a conversation on him one-on-one, or you watch him in an interview one-on-one, he's the same guy.
Right.
Or, a president that you really think is an amazing speaker. Or like I always bring up Oprah, because I think Oprah is this, she really uses her vocal dynamics. She's really gets it. You have a car and you get a car, and then she'll be like, I went into the ugly cry. Like she goes up and down, and
you do that well. It's true. You're right. I didn't never really notice that until
uses her vocal dynamics in a way that is very influential and persuasive, and it's because that's how she feels about it. But I just want to say that what happens to a lot of people is they feel they have to be a different person when they get up on stage. They feel they have to turn into the person giving the presentation. Now I am going to inform you about cryptocurrency.
that voice.
Right? And they become square.
Even that voice is fake.
Right.
Amazing how you do that. How'd you do that, by the way?
Yeah.
Like, what did you know? I'm
The actor
serious.
in me. But I think that the more you just bring yourself, the more you don't change. I mean, yes, all of a sudden you go from talking to one person to talking to 100 people or 200
Right.
people or however many hundred people. So that's a little intimidating. So find one person that you're talking to in your mind.
Let me ask you this: how do you coach people to deal with intimidation?
That's one thing we do. Who are you talking to? I don't know. I'm talking to 100 people. 100 people is not specific. Who are you talking to that makes you feel comfortable?
So you look for like a comfort spot person?
Well, yeah, I want to bring people to a comfortable place. So even though you're talking to 100 people, in your mind, make it 100 or make it 5 of your college buddies. Make it 5 of the people you play poker with. 5 of the people that you would believe that you could be having this conversation with.
Okay.
And that's one thing that's pretty important. Who are you talking to and why?
All right.
Right? So if it's your poker buddies, well, instead of playing poker, we decided to exchange information about what we do and why we do it.
Okay.
So you can believe that. Well, these are my poker buddies, but I'm going to talk to them about what I do and why it's so important. And maybe they're interested in that, and then flip it. Maybe you just learned from your friend who is a teacher and why it's so cool to be a college professor, right? So, okay, cool, now it's my turn. And that puts you at ease. Now it's like, oh, now it's my turn. Now I'm talking to 100 random people. No, now you're talking to your 5 college buddies who just shared information to you, and now it's your turn to share information.
No, but are you going like Brady Bunch, like, you know, like picture everyone in their socks and underwear? Remember that episode?
Yes, so people have asked me that. Right. How important, was that your question?
I don't
how
think
important
so.
is it
No.
to picture everybody naked?
No, that was, I mean, I remember watching it. I was young when I watched it, and I was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Right.
Like, that's not even funny, you know? So it's always been, and it's so funny how a show that you watched, you know,
Comes back.
35, 40 years ago comes back when someone makes one comment that has nothing to do with it, but it does, and it's always struck me because it just seems so ridiculous. I was like, that just doesn't make any sense.
If it helps you, then it's worth it. If it helps you to picture everybody in their underwear because it makes you feel comfortable because you're the only one clothed,
Right.
try it. I mean, rehearse, because there are 3 parts of your brain, and the middle part of your brain is the instinct part, the part that takes over when you freeze, when the front part
That's the middle?
The middle part of your brain.
I thought it was the back.
No, the back.
Sorry, so let's start with middle part. Fascinating. Middle part of the
my
brain.
friend just told me all of this, and I was like, well, that makes so much sense because, but I forget what the back's for. The front part, your frontal lobal cortex, what is it called?
I like frontal lobal cortex.
It's not it, though.
Maybe the frontal lobe.
The frontal lobe, right.
Or lobes, because there's 2 of
cortex
them.
is back here.
Well, no, there's 2
There
hemispheres.
There's 2 hemispheres,
but there's 1 lobe. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. And the front.
I got a 2 in AP Bio in
Yeah,
high school. So.
and I'm an actress and a voiceover. So the front part.
Would you like some water, by the way?
I do have some water, but
okay,
thank you.
all right. So
Very good.
front part of the brain.
Not
sorry.
knocking that over. The front.
Don't worry, we have more podcasts to do.
Here's hoping. The front part of your brain is the part that you use to learn, right? And the part that you immediately go to for information. So if you're up giving a speech, that part of you is working. And some people freeze. They see somebody on their phone and they freeze. Uh-oh, I've lost my audience.
Really?
Yeah. They lose breath and they freeze. And your instincts, which is the middle part of your brain, will take over. So if you've practiced enough and enough and enough, your instinct will take over. For example, I have been on stage, and my fellow actors have been on stage, and we have literally come off stage and said, I don't know what I said, but I said everything right. I don't know what happened. I have no memory of what just happened.
That's cool.
But the right words come out of your mouth.
Right.
And then you physicalize it, right? So I often have people physicalize their speech. Like if walk over to this side of the stage when you have a different subject, when you're changing subject. And if you freeze and all of a sudden you walk over to that side of the stage, magically you remember what you have to talk about. Because now it's not just in your brain, it's in your body.
Right. So that's muscle memory then, right?
Yeah, but you're combining now 2 aspects, your muscle memory and your brain.
So
I mean, not that they're mutually connected. They're not.
Well, no, they kind of are. I've done a lot of muscle memory training.
Yeah.
And the entire idea of muscle memory is that you're not thinking. It just takes over.
Right.
You know, so all of a sudden you're in a situation and you've got it so many times that the very, very, actually, so from what I've heard, it's towards the back of your brain. After you really, you get it, you get the muscle memory down. Not the very base, because the very base, that's your lizard brain.
Your lizard brain.
Like the medulla oblongata, where all
Yeah.
the fear is and all that.
Yeah.
So, and this is a cool thing too. If you take your thumb bone and you press right here,
Yeah.
really hard
And he's
into
pressing
somebody's
everybody
here, right?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Like from behind, like so you're levering it, and you won't break anything, but it's right in the space in your lip, that little divot in your lip.
Yeah.
You'll take someone back to their lizard brain, literally.
Oh.
It's a nerve, and then you just start going like that's all you can do. So, but that pressure point literally brings you back to the very base of your brain.
Okay.
And the base of the brain is what separates primates from the lower animals, and then the primates from higher primates. So
yeah.
it's like chimpanzees. So actually, it's like this. It's lizards over here, right? And then you've got like the next higher level, and they've got more brain.
Right.
And ours continued to grow, and so we're beyond the chimpanzees, which is why we have the ability for speech and abstraction, and why people can do what you do or what I do, and make a living, right?
Right.
And so all of that, anything that pretty much differentiates us between the chimpanzees is all the front part of the brain.
Right.
And so the deeper you go into muscle memory, the further back in your brain it goes. And then you can have these instantaneous reactions like tennis players or people shooting at each other, like in real life, that kind of stuff.
Your reaction time to something. Yeah.
Archery, all of those kind of like base level things.
Right. Right.
So, but I didn't think about it. I only think about it in like a sports context, let's say.
No, if you're on
but
stage.
it's on stage, and so it's really connected. What's so amazing to me, and I'll shut up now because I've spoken for way too much time, is that it applies directly to speech too.
To many mediums, yeah. So I often, especially like I've coached people giving TED Talks. So if you have the whole...
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
That's really, how was that? That sounds cool.
It was great. You learn so much, so about whatever it is they're talking about,
Right.
So it's fun. But I always encourage people to use the stage and use it specifically, help your audience get what you're giving. Help them put down what you're, help your audience pick up what you're putting down. So you need to help them vocally. You need to help them physically. Like I said, if you're changing subjects, move, right? If you're doing a 1, 2, 3, maybe lift your arm up for 1 and put it in the middle for 2 and put it down for 3, or make 1 on stage right, the right side of the stage, 2 in the middle, and 3 stage left. So even if you walk over to the right side of the stage, you're back to that subject. And if you go all the way to the other side of the stage, you're back to the other subject, and your audience is following it because now you have differentiated them spatially, not just vocally. So they have a visual and they have audio.
So I guess you don't really ever want to give a speech behind a podium, right?
Well, if you do, then you can still raise your hands and lower your hands, and you also have vocal dynamics.
What if you talk with your pinkies out?
If you talk with your pinkies out, do you do
that's
that?
that's what Trump does. He always does that pinky thing, and he's a real performer, right? So I don't really listen to him or watch him too much, just unless I really want to laugh.
Yeah.
But that thing that he does with his pinky, it's been made fun of a lot.
Well,
but he does do that, which
someone's going to make fun of it.
I know,
but
right?
My goodness,
But
it's never ending.
No, it's true. But it's interesting because he's such a good entertainer that I wonder if he's aware. I mean, are people aware when they do these things?
People often ask me, what do I do with my hands?
Right.
What do I do with my hands? What do I do? How do I stand? It's nice to find a resting place. Mm-hmm. It's nice if you want to put your hands, one on top of another, whatever. It's nice to find a resting place that you can feel comfortable with. But the truth is, you shouldn't really be thinking about it. You should be thinking about your message and what you want to do to the audience. I want to enlighten you. I want you to learn about this. I want to teach you. I want to impress you. I want to make you feel comfortable. So whatever you do with your hands happens to happen because you're not thinking about that. If you start thinking about what you're doing with your hands, you're thinking about you. And rule number 1 is it is never about you. You will sink, you will freeze, you will be nervous. It is always and only about your audience.
So now it's interesting because you would think that it's get lost in the message, not in yourself, but it's really get lost in the audience, huh?
No, get lost in the message to your audience. Yeah, get lost in the audience. That's fine too. You don't ever want to get lost in you.
Right.
If something goes wrong and you start thinking about you, remember your message. Find something in the, what am I doing? Oh yeah, I was in the middle of enlightening somebody. I was in the middle of teaching. I was in the middle of an argument with them.
Right.
But if you ever start thinking about you, you'll freeze or something. I always encourage people also, if you do freeze, exhale. Because they tell people to inhale and you're already tense.
Right.
And so if you try to inhale when you're tense, it's just going to make you more tense. But if you exhale, it's already a release.
That's a good
And
point.
your brain will release and you'll come back to where you were.
So here's another question. There's a book called On Combat.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've read it.
I have not.
You should read it.
Okay.
It's really good.
Okay.
You have some really interesting advice too on raising children.
Oh, wow.
You know,
I'll
and
use that.
you'd be surprised. Like,
Okay.
actually, I took a rule from it, which is
Yeah?
that up until children are 7, they can't differentiate violence on television versus violence in reality. And so when if you let them watch violence on TV, they think that they're seeing it for real. And so psychologists recommended that you don't let your children
Watch violence.
watch violence on television until they're 7, and we've pretty much done that. And I'm very happy about it, because there's another theory on it that's the reason why there's so much PTSD with current soldiers, because they grew up seeing violence all the time, so they have issues with separating. I don't know. The studies are not in on that, so I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
But I found that, so it had some surprising enlightenment in there. But one of the things that I found so valuable about that book was he talks about breath and the separation between the autonomic and the parasympathetic. That's right. It's
Yeah.
autonomic and parasympathetic, or is it
Yeah.
sympathetic and parasympathetic?
Well,
That's
he's
what it
basically
is.
saying is one is reactional. Reactional is something where one is a reaction, almost a involuntary response,
Right.
and one is voluntary. So you sort of want the involuntary. You don't. If I'm telling you to take a breath, you're not going to. But if you exhale, you involuntarily then inhale, because your body inhales and exhales.
So you get movement in your body. Is
Well,
that it?
exhaling, if you exhale to the point where you have no breath, it's an involuntary response to inhale again. So the exhale is a release to make you inhale again, and then flow starts coming.
That's pretty cool.
Does
So
that make
yeah, no,
sense?
it does completely.
Yeah.
What he says is that there's essentially, when you start freaking out,
Right.
he said it's essentially your parasympathetic, which is like your base layer brain,
Yeah. Yeah.
taking control, and it's the frightened you.
Right.
And the only way to take control of something that's an autonomous function like that, like your heart rate, your heartbeat, all that stuff, right? We don't really have control of it because we don't want to. It's bad for us to have control of it. The only way you can get control of something like that is through controlling your breath, because it is the only part of the automatic nervous system that you have that you can control. You can stop yourself from breathing. You can't stop your heart from beating, right?
That's true.
So it's the only crossover
That's
between
interesting.
that. So controlling your breath
Yeah.
controls the rest of your body and controls your basic fear instinct that you don't really have control over, because it's in the animal part of your brain.
Right. I mean, definitely people feel their heart rate before it's their turn to go speak.
Sure.
So if you can do, I mean, I always tell people, what are you thinking about before you walk into the room?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it shouldn't be about your heart rate. It shouldn't be, oh my God, I'm up next. It should be, what am I doing? Oh, I'm getting ready to make the audience feel comfortable. Oh, I'm getting ready to get them excited. Or I'm getting ready to introduce myself to the audience. I'm getting ready to teach them about whatever. I'm getting ready to teach them. It can also be a feeling. I had a friend who used to walk in the room and think to himself in a Southern accent, "I love you." I love you. And it put him at ease.
It sounds so
It put
calm
him
and
at ease.
relaxed.
I love you. And he thought, oh, these people just love me. Now, let me tell you about something, and he would be able to get into it. So if that helps you, that helps you. But it's all about them. I love you. I'm going to teach you. You're so sweet. Whatever. It doesn't have to be a Southern accent. But all
It helps, though.
them,
It
right?
helps.
I know. But all them. So if you feel that your heart is ba-boom, 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 you can do breathing exercises. Inhale for 4 breaths, for 4 counts, hold it for 4, exhale for 8, Inhale for 4.
So that's exactly what he says in the book on combat, but he says 4, 4, and 4.
So 4, 4, and 4.
Right.
You know, but just to slow your heart rate down and focus on your audience. Not who's out there, who's going to freak me out, but what message am I giving them? What do I need them to know? I need them to know how amazing cryptocurrency is. I need them to know how cool it is. I know.
You don't need to reference cryptocurrency.
Cryptocurrency. I need them to know how, enlightening it is.
It's very
about.
kind of you.
I'm coaching somebody right now on education and technology. So how wild this is. How let me enlighten you about where the future of education is based on the future of technology.
Now, how important is fear as a motivational factor for public speaking? Is it something you have to be completely remove, or do you want a little bit of fear?
No, you don't want any fear. You don't want any fear. Fear puts you in a place where you're not comfortable, where you don't feel composed, where you don't feel powerful or in control. My job is to make you feel that you can walk into a room with confidence, purpose, and ease. And there's no fear or tension involved in that.
Confidence, purpose, and ease. So what's the hardest case that you've dealt with, and how have you dealt with that?
Well, I mean...
And it can be an amalgamation of several different, ones.
People, some people have such an immense amount of fear of their body language is not open and available. They have what I call, I want you to have a high presence. Do you remember we were talking about that?
Yes.
And, so a high presence to me is a freedom and command of your body, which gives you freedom and command of your voice. And how do you get a high presence? And it's all about, again, what is my message? What am I doing for my audience? I love you, or whatever works, right? And it brings you to them. Your energy is out because it's going to them. It's not about you. And if you start thinking about you, all of a sudden your energy starts creeping in and your body language starts hiding yourself and fear comes in. So when I have clients who have that and it's deep-seated, 3 sessions is not going to do it, right?
Right.
So it's really a longer, more, let's work every day for a month, not every day, once a week for a month, or that's even 4 sessions, but maybe for 6 months. Let's conquer this, because it's really going back to a psychological place. And sometimes with all the tools that I give you, you then have to really work and work. It's homework. You got to do it. You got to practice, practice, practice. So if you're constantly, finding yourself in a place where you're hunched over
right.
and you need to look up, then there's all kinds of ways. You can do imagery. You can pretend that, you have some sort of, your heart is propelling you forward because you love somebody. So you're leading with your chest, and you come in and you meet that person finally, and now you can introduce yourself and make them feel comfortable and make you feel comfortable. But there's all these exercises that we have. But in the workshop, that's more in depth. That's a one-on-one coaching. In the workshop, right. We basically touch upon the tools and techniques that you need to understand how to have eye presence, how to be vocally dynamic, how to connect with your audience by connecting to what you're saying on a deeper level.
So now here's a question. What do you do if you forget what you're doing in the middle? I mean, is there...
Exhale.
Right.
And...
How do you bring yourself back?
Well... There's 2 things. There's 3 things you can do. 1, you exhale, and magically things start coming back. 2, you should have. I don't usually recommend that people write down verbatim what they need to say.
Right.
Because what happens is you miss a word, you forget a word, you jump a sentence, and all of a sudden you think, oh God, I screwed up. Oh no, I screwed up. Everyone knows I screwed up. What do I do now? Nobody knows you screwed up. Nobody has that piece of paper but you.
Right. Keep playing the song.
But it screws with you. So I don't suggest you do that. I think you should just write bullet points, talking points, an outline, something that you can look down on, and it will trigger where you are. So look down, trigger where you are. Oh, time. Right. I was talking about how much time it takes to study for an exam when you're 4, 6, and 8, whatever it is you're talking about. So look down at a bullet point that you've written down. Another thing that I find hilarious when people do this if you have the wherewithal to do it. It's a great thing, is to literally, anytime you want to engage the audience is a plus. So if you've lost your place, hey, can someone shout out where I was? Can someone tell me what was I talking about? And everyone's like, oh, yo, you were talking about time. Ah, thanks. Great. Moving on. We're talking about time. Now people look up. They're asking me a question. Oh, I know. Let me help them out.
That's pretty good. That's a good idea.
No
I
one
like
thinks it's okay to ask the audience. It's perfectly okay to engage your audience. Even in that, I lost my place. Someone help me out. Who's with me? Shout it out.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Anything's okay. Is it okay to do it? Yep. Anything's okay. You're you. You're you up there. And the more you are, the more the audience becomes, you become endearing to them. The more you are. If you walk up and your blouse just ripped or your jacket just ripped, guess what, guys? My blouse just ripped. My jacket ripped. Can you believe it? I tried to look so good for you. All right, here we go. Now it's endearing.
Well,
and it makes you feel comfortable.
Luckily, none of my blouses have ever ripped when I've had public speaking.
There you go.
That's okay.
There you go.
So tell me this. So, how did you go from
Being
acting into public speaking?
So, generally,
or public speaking coach, let's say.
Public speaking coach.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of friends outside the business, outside of acting.
Show business,
that business. And they started asking me for tips. And can you listen to my speech? And what can I do to make it better? And so I started coaching friends on their presentations and their pitches and their public speaking engagements. And so I thought, maybe I'll start coaching. And then I developed a workshop, and I really enjoy it. And I think that what comes so naturally to actors does not come naturally at all to people in the civilian world, as we call it.
Yes,
the
that's a
academic
good way
world,
to
the
say
business world, anybody that's not on stage. And even actors don't like it when they don't have a script. I don't mind. I don't have a problem public speaking. I enjoy it. But it's not, it's a fear-based medium or
right.
Discipline. And so that's why I started coaching, because I want to put people at ease the way I feel. And if I have tools and techniques that can help people, then great. Why not pass them along?
So, right. You have people start talking to you. They want to know kind of how you're doing this. Annie, can you help me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from the time that happens until the time you're like, hey, I'm going to maybe start doing this as a business. Just curious.
Yeah.
How much time was that? Years, months?
I don't know. I mean, it could have been about a year, between, coaching people and then thinking about doing this professionally and then putting together a workshop.
How long did that take? That was probably another year, right?
No, I had a mentor, and we talked about a lot of different things that I wanted to put in there and that he had put in his, and he learned from somebody else. And, there's so many different, there's no one right way. It's what works for you, and there's different ways to start a speech and different ways to end a speech. And they're all good if they work, right?
Right.
I mean, I hate when people start speeches. I mean, hate is such a strong word, but it's never my go-to. Thank you, Jonathan, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you, members of the board. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. You know what? They don't care that you're thanking them.
Right.
They really don't. I say skip it.
It's funny. When I was in law school, they have this thing called moot court, and it's essentially where you go and you argue. It's like acting, right?
Yeah.
But you're arguing a fake case.
Yeah.
And what they say is when you're in front of the jury, you're supposed to say, Your Honor, members of the jury, may it please the court. And I've always despised that.
Yeah.
And I've never done it.
Oh,
Whenever I've opened or closed, I just start, because a story starts in the beginning, but it has to be a story.
I mean,
And
they
that's
all
what you're
know
doing,
you're
right?
talking to them,
Yeah.
right? You're
Right.
only there for the judge and the jury. I mean, I've coached people for commencement speeches that they have to, for 45,000 people, right? And they do have to thank the people that introduce them, and then they thank the graduates, and they thank the parents of the graduates for bringing them here. And it's fine. It's totally doable. And I've coached a number of commencement speeches, but if they asked me, I'd say skip it.
So a good point.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, when you're speaking, you're actually grateful for the opportunity. So do you do it at the end, or
It's all in how you do it, right? I mean, how do you want, if you're truly grateful, there's a difference between saying, I am so grateful for the opportunity to be here and teach you all the different life lessons that I have learned in my 30 odd years or however old you are. That's pretty much what I hear.
Did you say 30 odd years?
I did.
Oh, thank you.
But what if?
Flattering me. Huh?
And well, I just randomly, in my 15 odd year. No, but I mean, the first thing that I say to somebody is, how do you feel about that? Are you really grateful? Because you didn't really seem you were grateful.
That's a good point.
That's all I ask ever. How do you feel? If you're really grateful, be grateful. And then I'll be happy to hear it. But if you're just going to tell me you're grateful, I don't care.
So now, another thing I was listening to is our relationship with the truth. And I found it to be really fascinating that essentially, I think it's Karl Popper, who's a psychologist. Popper. See, I have a pop filter on this.
I was going to say, careful, you'll pop the mic. Yeah.
That's right. So Karl Popper talked about being having your speech be integrated with who you are, and that when you're telling lies effectively, you'll feel weaker if you really pay attention. You'll feel weaker.
Well, you're talking to an actor, so I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but I'm an actor, so my job.
Well, no, because everyone knows when you're acting that you have it's an abstraction.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So it's not a lie. And if you're giving a speech on something, if you're doing it as a character, it's fine because you're a character. But
so you do feel weaker if you're saying a non-truth.
And I thought about it, and quite frankly, I think that there's some truth to that.
I think there's some truth to that. I think you really have to work harder to tell a lie. To tell a lie truthfully, to tell a lie convincingly. Effectively, right. The art of effective communication.
Or effective lying. So it just strikes me when you mentioned that, you didn't really feel happy, thankful. I didn't get that from you.
Because people are connected here mentally, and they're not connected emotionally.
Right.
So if you are truly grateful for the opportunity, then let me hear how grateful you really are. Because if someone just saved your life, now I'm making this life and death, so it doesn't have to be this life and death, but if someone saved your life, you're not going to go up to them and say, thank you, you just saved my life. Right?
Well, if you're really shocked, you might say it that way, but probably not, yeah.
You're going to say, thank you, you just saved my life. You really saved my life. So you use the same words, but you all of a sudden allowed yourself to feel what it feels like to be truly grateful. And then the person receives it in a completely different way. So if you're going to get up for a commencement speech and you're going to thank the parents and thank the person that just introduced you and thank the students for allowing you to come, then really thank them. If you're just going to give it word service, lip service, then don't do it.
Yeah, I guess you're right. You can make a joke out of it too, right?
You can.
Thank you, parents, for sending your children to, college so that I could speak to them at the end of their,
There you go.
Right. I guess then
That's
then
also
it works,
connecting
right?
more than just thank you, honorary board members, thank you, president, thank you, parents, and you're literally going through the list so you can check everybody off. They don't care.
Right. That's probably true. I don't think anyone really cared about that stuff.
They just want to hear what you have to say.
So when I listen to you do what you had just did, I hear emotion in your voice. It strikes me as somewhat difficult to do. How does someone who's not emotive connect on the emotive level from their speech? You have to do it first in your head, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm going to ask you a question. What's one word to describe? You have 3 kids. Is that okay to say?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, so what's one word to describe your oldest?
Oh, there are many. Okay, wild.
And what's one word to describe your middle?
Character.
And your baby?
Nut job.
So you just went wild character nut job. Now, I exaggerated a little bit,
Right.
but you already feel something about them very specifically.
Right. That's true.
So I didn't have to ask you to connect. I purposely picked something you were connected to,
Okay.
right?
Uh-huh.
So if you have to talk about a glass of water
Mm-hmm.
and you're Aaron Brockovich and the water is poisoned,
Right.
right? So you ask yourself, how do I feel about this water? Well, it's poisoned and I don't like it. So your demeanor, the way you say it,
Mm-hmm.
your vocal choice to go a little deeper becomes more apparent because you don't like being poisoned. So,
Right.
but you have to mentally ask yourself, how do I feel about this? Because you can love being poisoned, right?
Right.
Right.
If it's
Maybe
alcohol,
it
if it's
tastes
the right
like,
kind of alcohol.
exactly. Maybe it's bourbon.
I was just gonna
love
say.
this glass of water, right? So all of a sudden,
Yeah.
everything changes. And then the audience, you're allowing the audience to feel with you.
So do you have to do that? I guess what you really want to do then is break your speech into parts
Mm-hmm.
to the extent that there's some different emotional levels or things you want to bring out.
Mm-hmm.
This is from a non-emotional person, right? Figure out
So he says, but yes.
figure out what things you connect to on those levels, and then record yourself
Sure,
or just
listen back. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
and use the iPhones and the
Yeah, and if you
Google phones
if you
all do that,
realize that
right?
you're talking about poison water and you say it, so I want to introduce everybody to this water. It's poison and it might hurt you. And you hear that and you're like, wow, didn't care too much about that, did I?
right. I mean,
Right?
can I have some coffee?
Right, exactly. So listen back. That's a great tool. Practice, practice, listen.
Okay.
Learn.
That's no. So now here's another question for you. We talked about breath, right? You speak a lot about breath.
Mm.
I just noticed you're straightening your posture, which is where I'm going with this, right? It's
okay.
okay. I did the same thing. by the
Yes,
way.
okay.
So when you're speaking, if you really to have the most effective breath, you do need to have good posture. So how important are things like posture and being somewhat in shape to speaking and getting the stuff out there? I mean, I know
would
you
say
could
it's
slouch.
secondary to how you feel about what you're saying.
Okay.
That's primary. How do you feel about what you're saying? Think of somebody that you know that happens to be overweight and slouchy and that you've heard speak well.
All right. Okay. I just did. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
There you go.
You're right about that.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. It's really paramount. How do you feel about what you're saying?
So now we talk about the breath. I want to ask you, have you ever heard of a guy named Wim Hof the Iceman?
No.
Fascinating dude.
Wim Hof.
Wim Hof. He's a weird dude. He's really funny and he's pretty famous actually. I didn't really know about him until recently. Because I was trying to also work on my breath and I managed to bust my toe. And so I couldn't run. I figured I'd go, I hate running. You know, I only run if someone's chasing me.
Chasing you,
right?
yeah.
And I'm fascinated by people who run marathons because I don't know how, to me it's like
26 miles, and it's this Sunday.
yeah, I know. And I
Yeah.
couldn't even imagine ever wanting to do that, you know? So to me it's fascinating, but and because I hate it, I was like, all right, I'll just do it and maybe I'll enjoy it, but at least I'll get my wind back up. And I couldn't do it. And so I looked online for breathing, like, like
Yeah.
breath exercises.
Yeah.
And I found this guy, and he's got an entire process and the way that you can use breathing to actually release all sorts of issues that you may have in your body. And what he does is he has you do this really kind of rapid, a deep inhale, and then a really quick exhale, and you do this like 20 to 30 times in a row.
Yeah.
And then he has you hold your breath.
Yeah.
And if you've never done it before, ever,
Yeah.
you'll hold your breath for a minute and a half.
That's long.
Yeah, it's really
Wow.
long. And you get lightheaded as you're doing it, but when you're holding your breath, you're totally fine. And then, you know, if you're smart enough to not look at the timer and then just look at it when you're
Right.
finished, you'll see that. And he'll have you do it 3 times. And then by the third time, you're holding your breath for like 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Really?
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So, if you haven't,
Did you do it?
I do it. And like if I'm under, for some reason, if I wake up and I'm totally like out of focus and I can't think for some reason, you know, kids were up, they kept me up for like, you know, for like 3 or 4 hours, you know, I'll do that, and then I'm totally focused and fine for like the entire day.
So you inhale and then you fast exhale?
It's not, no, it's more like this. It's so before you're finished with your full exhale, you take another breath. And he does it all through his mouth. He said it doesn't matter whether it's through the nose or the mouth, but I try to do it through the nose. And you do that, you know, and he's like, you're supposed to be relaxed when you're doing it. So he'll have you lie down.
Right.
You don't stand up. You don't do it in water because you can sometimes pass out. So it's not a good idea, you know. But I've also done it before I swam.
Yeah.
And don't worry, we're closing up soon. It's all right. We all have places to go, and I would, you know, be able to do in like a pool length.
Wow.
After doing that, and then when I try to do it again, if I don't do that, I can't. So it be given all the focus that you have on breath. I was just curious if you had found this guy.
So breath, if anybody out there doesn't know, breath is a release, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tension is your enemy, and breath will release tension. So there's all kinds of ways of using your breath to release tension. If you're ever stretching, right? A lot of you out there are very inflexible. If you're stretching, let's say you're
sitting at a desk all day, right?
Right. So let's say you are standing up straight and you bend over, and you exhale. You'll bend over a little further. If you exhale on a sound like you'll bend over even further.
Really?
Yeah, because sound releases even more. So a breath will release you, but a sound and breath will release you even more. Right? So one thing that I have my clients, when I'm giving a workshop, what I have you do is shake your body out on a sound, because it'll tell you if you're released, because your voice should be affected by your body. And if it's not, if you're shaking it out and you're going you're controlling. So you're not released. You're not free. So your body and your breath should affect your voice.
That was a really cool point. I never really thought about that, but you're right.
Yeah.
And so, okay, great. That's a great thing to end on. How about that?
Yes.
So now you've got a couple of things going on. So let's get what you're doing. I know you have a workshop coming up November 20th.
NYC,
we'll put it up.
Yes.
So let's hear it.
Here in New York. I'm giving a workshop, a powerful voice workshop. It is going to be November 20th from 6 to 8. So come sign up. The website you can sign up is apowerfulvoice.net.
And that's your website
that's
too,
my
right?
website, apowerfulvoice.net, and one of the pages is the workshop, and you can sign up right
Where are you giving it? Where's the workshop?
It's
gonna be?
Midtown. I think it's like 38th and 8th. Something like that, yeah.
Midtown, 38th and 8th, November 20th, 6 to 8 p.m., right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then...
It might be 6:30, 8:30. I have to look, but it's on the website.
Are you at Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. Facebook, Annie Meisels. Twitter, I don't do.
Okay.
Instagram, I think I'm also Annie Meisels.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm always Annie Meisels.
Okay, so just type in Annie Meisels
Type in Annie
into
Meisels
Google, right?
into Google. But you might have to do apowerfulvoice.net. I don't know if that will come up before like my acting reel or something like that.
And I will say that I did it. It was a great program.
Thank you. I'm glad you did it, and I'm glad you liked it so much.
Totally awesome. And thank you for doing that.
Thank you for having
thank you
me,
for coming on the
Jason.
podcast.
Thank you.
All right, I'll see you later.
Okay.
Well, it's been 5 long years of this permanent midnight. I've been waiting for the sun to